Hello, and we got a daily dose of crypto news for you. First of all, the judge in this SBF case has destroyed Sam Bankman-Fried. In fact, he has now changed his name to Sam Bankman-Fried because he just got fried. And how did he get fried? He basically, the judge denied his appeal against bail revocation, so he gets to stay in the lovely Brooklyn jail, which is not known for hospitality. So the Southern New York District of New York revoked former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried's bail on August 11th, so he had to go to jail, and he had basically multiple instances of bail violation. So the U.S. Attorney's Office has filed an affirmation of the denial of bail to former FTX CEO SBF, claiming that he could attempt witness tampering and stating that no release conditions would assure the safety of the witnesses. Obviously, SBF has done many things to try to tamper with witnesses, try to discredit the witnesses, which is obviously not allowed for the defendant. Prosecutors responded to several claims made in his appeal against the bail revocation, calling it meritless, and the judge agreed with him. So, despite how many connections people claim that SBF and his parents have, they cannot get him out of jail, and the court case does not look to be going too great against him. In their response, the prosecutors argued that SBF was found to have twice committed or attempted witness tampering in violation of court orders. Thus, in light of his continued evasions of his pre-trial release conditions, Bankman-Fried was unlikely to abide by the conditions released, and of course, that's what the judge said. However, he did get a new battery for his laptop. What he's doing with his laptop in jail without internet, not really sure. But he did get a new battery. The first time SBF attempted to contact witnesses came to light in January earlier this year, when the former FTX CEO initiated contact with then General Counsel of FTX.US, who is also a potential trial witness represented by the counsel. So if you are a defendant, you cannot actually go contact the witnesses. And the second time came in July 2023, when the New York Times published the private journal messages of Carolyn Ellison, which obviously was to discredit Carolyn Ellison. So because of that, he went to jail. And they can't really find a good way to actually get him out because on August 28th, the lawyers appealed against the revocation of the bail ruling and claimed that the former FTX CEO was well within his right to talk to the press about Ellison as it's protected under the First Amendment. However, the prosecutors argued that Judge Kaplan took SBF's First Amendment rights into consideration in the ruling. The judge in the ruling noted that the law is that once communication is undertaken as part of with the intent to intimidate or influence a witness, it's a crime, and the First Amendment has nothing to do with it. And obviously, that's what he was doing to Carolyn Ellison. He was trying to discredit her or even threaten her. So the prosecutors made two key arguments in the SBF appeal. First, the district court did not clearly err in finding probable cause to believe Bankman-Fried twice committed attempted witness tampering while on pretrial release. Second, Judge Kaplan did not clearly err in finding probable cause that Bankman-Fried attempted to tamper with a witness. So the appeals court rejected him. Those legal losses are piling up for SBF, and he has to stay in jail, which he's probably not used to. He's probably trying to get out of jail to witness tamper, but also just to get out of jail because he is a he comes from a rich family, and he's not used to the harsh conditions of the Brooklyn jail. But he gets to stay in jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200 because of his past deeds, and no amount of connections can help him with that. Maybe now Sam Bankman-Fried realizes that his lawyers actually did know what they were talking about, and he should have listened to his first batch of lawyers instead of getting a bunch of yes men, which lands him in jail. Polygon has actually partnered with a Korean finance giant, and that is called Mirai Asset Securities, and it looks to advance tokenization with finance in South Korea through a partnership with the Ethereum scaling architect builder. So Polygon has partnered with Korean finance, and they want to tokenize securities or tokenize stocks. That's really interesting. I guess they have the legal rights to do that in Korea. I'm not really sure about the United States. Mirai Asset Securities is teaming up with Polygon to support the growth of tokenized asset securities networks. This move comes as more institutions have launched initiatives in the segment. Polygon Labs is set to be the technical consultant in the Mirai Asset Security Token Working Group. So maybe they'll actually use Polygon in the coin. That's not guaranteed, but they are in a partnership, and they're going to be the technical consultant. So it's very, very likely that they're going to use the Polygon blockchain. Whether they're not they're going to use the coin is another matter altogether. The consortium will focus on building the infrastructure for tokenized securities platforms, as well as technology needed to issue and distribute tokenized securities. Myriad Asset Technologies is a subsidiary of Myriad Asset Financial Group, which had 565 billion in assets under management as of June. So they're they're over 500 billion dollars in asset management. Obviously, pretty big deal, could result in a lot of transactions for the Polygon blockchain, which is obviously really, really good for Polygon. Moray's foray into tokenizations will undoubtedly help accelerate the mass adoption of Web3 among other financial institutions. At the time, Moray's initiatives will also greatly contribute to establishing interoperability between South Korea's domestic financial systems and their foreign counterparts. So it does look like they're looking at Polygon for like the international remittance market. Seems like everyone wants to get a piece of that market, and it will be split among many, many players. The partnership comes as a range of financial institutions have embarked on various tokenization initiatives in the recent years. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink has touted tokenizing assets, noting its potential to drive efficiencies in capital markets. So they are tapping Polygon for this purpose. Could result in really great growth per Polygon in the future. I wouldn't overlook it. And just another good piece of news for crypto and for Polygon in general. Polygon has been racking up several partnerships and wins in the past couple of weeks. So might be an asset that you want to look at, being the most valuable layer 2 chain right now. The first Ethereum spot ETF was filed. Now, do I actually think it's going to pass? No, because we don't even have a Bitcoin spot ETF yet. And yes, it was filed by ARK Invest. And surprised they did this before even their Bitcoin spot ETF got approved, because I feel like they would want one to get approved to have more confidence for the other one. But I guess, but I guess like for ARK, like they just want theirs to be first. If they're probably thinking if the Bitcoin ETF gets approved, which is likely, there's no reason an Ethereum ETF can't get approved if they use Coinbase as kind of like their like watchdog or as their like surveyor. So I think the filing is probably fairly similar to the Bitcoin filing, except with Ethereum. And you know that both Bitcoin and Ethereum are not considered securities by the SEC. I mean, like Ethereum, I don't think has been explicitly stated, but the SEC has gone through loops to not sue Ethereum. So right now, they are actually pretty safe. With all this, I do believe the SEC is going to lose their lawsuits. They're going to have to accept the Bitcoin ETF. And so the Ethereum ETF goes right hot on its heels. So I do believe that ARK Invest is probably making a good choice. And for institutional investors, the two they are interested in are Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it makes perfect sense to follow up your Bitcoin ETF, which will probably get approved sometime early next year, with an Ethereum ETF that would get approved maybe a month or two later, and be the first to the market on both those things. So that's basically really good for ARK. And I think I think other companies are going to follow because they don't want to lag behind on the Ethereum ETF after the Bitcoin one already comes out. So I also want to talk about why Binance is getting out of Russia. It's not only because they're getting hammered on by other countries. That's obviously one reason. It's because Russian business has basically fallen off a cliff, and it's just not worth it for them to risk it for Russia anymore. So if you actually look, this is from Coin Edition, the Russian ruble's monthly volume on Binance drops 83% in 2 years. So like Russia, I don't think was a very big market for crypto anyways. And despite Vladimir Putin's new renewed interest in crypto because he wants to get around sanctions, people aren't really trading in crypto in Russia anymore. And the volume has dropped 83%. So the monthly REB trade volume went from 507 million to 85 in 2021 to 85 million in 2023. There's obviously sanctions, but it could also be that Russian people just don't really have the money to invest in crypto anymore because their economy hasn't been doing too well. The Russian ruble has depreciated, so they're having to use more rubles to buy necessary things for life. The only currency that's dropped more in volume than the Russian ruble is the Ukrainian hryvnia. But I don't think Binance is pulling out of Ukraine because there's no international pressure to actually pull out of Ukraine. So there's no business risk really for them to pull out of Ukraine, for them to actually be in Ukraine, where there's a lot of international risk for them to actually stay in Russia because other jurisdictions are like, they won't say it straight out, but they're definitely punishing Binance for not basically like shunning Russia when the war first started. And they're getting really bad PR from other countries because of that. So due to those things, them deciding to get out of Russia, slowly to get out of Russia is probably a good decision because it doesn't represent too many business interests anyways, and the country is becoming more and more broke. You can just look at the drop of the Russian ruble compared to the US dollar for that. So yeah, like the stories we've seen of Binance actually leaving Russia, probably because like the volume does not justify the risk. At like $500 million per month, that might actually justify the risk for Binance. At 80 something million dollars a month and falling, it does not justify the risk. My guess is the Russian ruble volume will continue falling on Binance because realistically, there's just really like, I don't think there's really any way. I honestly do not think there's like really any way that they can really bring it back at this point. So until the war is over, and then like there'll still probably be sanctions on Russia because of them actually starting the war. So yeah, I think crypto in Russia right now, like there might be some underhanded stuff, but like officially crypto in Russia, even though like the Russian government is pro crypto at this point because they want to get around sanctions, is pretty much dead. And you can tell that like the volume, people just don't have money to actually invest in it. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.